this is Mace, and Dale is one of our, what are y'all called? Homebound specialists?
Well, homebound teachers, instructors.
Okay, and so can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and who you work with?
Okay, Homebound is a program that we give services to students who are unable to attend school for some type of medical reason. It may be, the reasons vary, but we have to have approval before we go to serve a student. The students range from kindergarten to grade 12.
Oh, wow.
So we serve those.
Okay. I taught for about 13 years, and I only had a homebound student like once or twice. So for me, it wasn't super common. Right. But let's say, what do the beginning teachers need to know? Like, if they have a child that they think would benefit from the homebound service, how would they get that started, or how would they ask about it?
Okay. Well, homebound services typically are for a minimum of 4 weeks.
Okay.
And they have to have documentation from a doctor.
Okay.
Once they get that, or what the teacher could do, first of all, they could go to the counselor.
Okay.
Make the counselor aware, because the counselor is the one who, gives the paperwork to central office staff. There is a multidisciplinary team that meets from the central office once they get the paperwork for Homebound, and they determine whether or not the student is eligible to receive those services.
Okay.
So the teacher, if they have a student they're concerned about, they go to the counselor, and then the counselor in turn tells them how to get the information.
Okay.
They get the information.
All right. Do you always get work from the teachers in a timely fashion, or?
No. That's probably the hardest part of my job, is trying to do that, and I understand, because teachers have so much on their plate.
Right.
So I have to gently nudge, sometimes with an email or a visit or whatever.
Yeah.
But with today, with lots of things being on Google Classroom, we're able to, use that.
Sure.
But yeah, teachers, what they do, I am the bridge between the student and the school.
That's good.
And what we do is I contact the teachers once the homebound has been approved. And then after it has been approved, I say, okay, we have this student, I'm going to be working with them. And so what the teachers do is they let me know if their assignments are online. They can give me paper copies of assignments or online assignments. If they're paper, I go to the home, I'll work with the student, and then bring the work back to the school. So I shuttle the assignments.
Yeah.
If a student happens to be in the Exceptional Children's Program, the counselor would submit the paperwork to the team with the Exceptional Children's Department, because we have a set of homebound teachers who work with regular education students and 504s, and then we have a team that works with the Exceptional Children's Department.
Okay, that's cool. I've been around for a while, and I just learned a lot. So I really do thank you for your time.
Yes.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Hi, so now I'm with Student Support Services, and this is Miss
Amy Crockett, Student Support Services Coordinator.
Okay. Miss Crockett, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and about the people that work under you?
So my role, I work primarily with all of our student services staff, including nurses, counselors, social workers, and I also oversee our 504 intervention counselors. So I work very closely with the school staff, as well as those intervention counselors that serve throughout the district.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about what the 504 counselors do and how they're different from a regular guidance counselor?
Absolutely. So right now we have 2 504 intervention counselors. They serve our middle school and high schools across the district. So their role is to help identify those students with disabilities or impairments that might not meet the level of eligibility for an IEP through our EC department. So one of the ways they work with our teachers and our school counselors is to help determine some interventions and to determine some of those strategies that might benefit those students in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I remember when I was a regular classroom teacher, I had students with IEPs and I had students with 504s, but sometimes the strategies were very similar. So what would be an example of a situation where a kid might need a 504 but doesn't qualify for an IEP?
That's a great question. So a lot of times those lines are easily blurred. The key difference is with Section 504, it does not have to be a learning impairment.
Okay.
It could also be a health impairment, any major life activity. So whereas your EC students, it must show an educational impact, ours, for example, could simply be a student who has asthma and they need accommodations for their use of their inhaler or for breaks when they might need to sit down and take a rest during activity. So the major difference is going to be the extent of the impairment.
Okay, so if one of my beginning teachers feels like one of their students needs a 504 plan, how would they get that going?
So our school counselors are the primary point of contact.
Okay.
They are well trained in Section 504. They are very knowledgeable of those interventions and strategies. So the first thing we would need to do is to develop some of those interventions to start utilizing in the classroom to see what works and what doesn't. So those school counselors work closely with MTSS. Sometimes the decision might be made that it needs to be an EC referral, or our 504 intervention counselors could come out to that school, work with the teacher, and then decide whether to move forward with 504 eligibility. So I will always say the first point of contact, school counselor, and they can help navigate that entire process.
All right, cool. Well, I have learned a lot. Thank you for your time, Ms. Crockett.
Thank you, anytime. Thank you.
So now I'm here with Miss Kimberly Winslow. Miss Winslow, thank you for your time. Can you tell us your title and a little bit about the type of work you do in our district?
Absolutely. My title is Lead Family Engagement Specialist, and we support the Student Support Services team, meaning counselors, social workers, mental health specialists, the health specialists. So we are here for an extra layer of support, almost like a liaison between families and our support staff.
Okay. All right. So what would our brand new teachers need to know about the types of kids that you work with, or like how to reach out if they needed help, or would you have anything to do with that, or how does that work?
Absolutely. So I'm a former teacher, and
cool.
Take a teacher out of the classroom, but we'll always be a teacher. So I'm always willing to help and offer any extra support for new teachers. But most specifically, our team, right now we have about 6 staff members on our team, 4 of whom are bilingual. So we especially help bridge the gap with language barriers or any cultural barriers. And we are very appreciative of our ESL teachers, our Spanish teachers. However, sometimes they don't have that extra time to make a phone call home or to spend that extra time with the family. And so that's where we come into play. Additionally, for our student support staff, for example, if a new teacher reaches out to a counselor and the counselor has a family who speaks another language, Spanish, French, or another language, we offer translation services and interpretation services as well.
Cool.
Yes.
Do you have like certain schools that you're assigned to, or how does that work? Or are y'all everywhere?
That is a great question. So we are everywhere. Primarily the base schools that you'll find us will be at Star Academy, Harnett Central High School, and then wherever is needed. So we will travel to school. We work specifically with, again, mostly, the student support staff, but we'll work with anyone who needs that extra layer of help. So we go to schools very often to help with parent-teacher conferences, not just as the interpreter, but to offer support to the family, if that clarifies anything.
Okay, so what would be an example of a situation when the family might need that support?
Great example. I received an email from someone in our student services department. They explained that we have a situation with the family, multilingual learner family, home language is Spanish. So we had a teacher on staff at the school who was willing to sit in and translate, right? Or interpret. So the interpretation is you say, I say, back and forth. But what was missing was that component that the parent really needed someone to talk to understand the meaning behind all these acronyms and things of that nature. So whereas we appreciate the literal translation, words back and forth, or even whether it be in writing, but parents need support as in have a conversation face-to-face, virtual, on the phone. So again, just that extra layer to get to the bottom of things and to find out. I had a great conversation today with a family who just having some problems with attendance. And what could be one of the issues? It could be that from their home country, education is valued, of course, but it may be valued in a different way. So here in the United States, where we would generally expect our students to continue in school till 17, 18, 19, graduate, but in some countries, when you turn 14, 15, it's time for you to work.
Right.
So sometimes with truancy cases, right? So sometimes with truancy cases, we think, oh, the kids just don't want to come to school or the parents don't want to come to school. But sometimes we just have to explain these cultural differences. Or sometimes we have to explain to the parents, hey, you know, your child has these capabilities and they have these experiences or these opportunities, and really just work a little bit closely with that family and not just one phone call, that's it. We started our team last year and we still support families from day one, where we met them last year, and that ongoing support. And if a student's in kindergarten, we'll continue supporting them as a first grader until they get to middle school, to high school, and help them with those career choices when they
Yes, it's almost like you're like an advisor or a counselor to the family in some ways.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And keyword, advocates.
Advocate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I like it. That's the right word. Well, we appreciate the hard work that you do for our families and our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And good luck.
I'm here with Lauren Banker. She is a high school student counselor.
Yes, I work at Western Harnett High School, and I can just speak on a little bit about what we do at the high school level and how we help our students here at Western.
Cool.
So we split our alphabet, or we split our students by alphabet. So there's 4 counselors here. I believe Avery Hills has 5 and Harnett Central has 5. But here we have 4, and we split our students by alphabet. I'm in charge of last names R through Z. All of us counselors help with college applications, any kind of individual counseling that a student may need. We do refer out for the mental health, either to our mental health team, which is new in our county, or to specific places that we have resources here, Daymark, things like that. We also do registration and scheduling, which is what we're doing right now, and getting students scheduled for second semester. But one of our favorite things to do is our registration season, which is coming up, and that is talking to every student in the building and finding out what their future plans are, whether it be 4-year, 2-year, workforce, military, and then leading them in the right direction and guiding them to figure out what classes they may need. That's a great opportunity for us to meet with every single student, because we don't typically get to do that during the year. So this registration season, that's coming up. We get to do that with them. We do provide social emotional learning lessons for our teachers. So here at the high school, we have homeroom on Fridays, and every month we send out a SEL lesson for our teachers to do with our students. I'm trying to think what else might be good for beginning teachers to know.
What type of kids do they need to point in your direction in high school? Like, what kind of behaviors would be like a red flag that they might need to talk to somebody? Or
I would say anything they see that is not typical of a teenager. I feel like typically someone who works in the high school setting knows what a teenager acts like. And so if you see something, it could be anything from an anger issue, shutting down, overactivity, hyperactivity. If they hear something, or know something's happening at home or within their friend group, we have a counselor request form for our teachers, but we also have a counselor request form for our students.
I see.
And they fill that out. Either the teacher fills it out or the student fills it out, and they can select what they want to talk about. And then each of us counselors can see who our students are, call them in, talk to them, and then we either handle it with our expertise or we refer out for whatever the kids may need.
Okay. All right.
So,
Well, I sure do appreciate your time. Thank you for meeting with me today, and we appreciate all you do for our kids.
thank you.
All right. And now I'm here at Highland Middle with Miss Fortner. And Miss Fortner is a school counselor. Okay, we say school counselor, not guidance counselor anymore.
We do. So it's kind of like calling a flight attendant a stewardess.
Okay.
It's just not politically correct anymore.
Okay.
So the theory behind that is guidance counselors were year of old when all they did was help you with schedules and kind of guide you through the education process.
Okay.
Whereas now school counselors are licensed in mental health school counseling. So we are genuinely counselors who choose to work in the school setting,
Okay.
as opposed to just individuals who make schedules and make sure you graduate on time.
I've never heard that before. You just explained that really well. So that would make me, if I was in your shoes, prefer to be called the school counselor. So what do our new teachers need to know about what you do? Can you tell us about some of the services that you provide and when they might need to reach out?
Sure. So when students are having rough days, so I'm middle school now, I have been elementary. Kids have rough days.
They do.
Like it's a people problem is what I like to call it rather than a kid problem. That's the majority. So much of what we do is a kid is having a day and they just need a caring, responsive adult to listen to them. That is a lot of what school counseling is.
Okay.
That is the here and now kind of responsive services, as we call them. We're responding to what the need is. But really good quality school counseling programs have plans. So we, at the very beginning of the year, are looking at what is one or two goals we have overarching for our students. So we're kind of looking at what our SIT team plan is, what is our school goals, and then the data, what are our academic needs of our kids, the attendance needs of our kids, and the behavior needs of our kids. And we're coming up with one or two really specific goals. So then what we're doing is then saying, okay, great, we have a ton of kids who were suspended last year. What is the root cause of that problem? How can we provide services that are preventative so that our students have what they need socially and emotionally so that they're not getting into the tiffs and the scuffles. We do that academically as well. Why are our kids struggling academically? Are there social emotional concerns that are leading into that? How can we push in, support, undergird their foundation?
I see.
So that
That's
they
good.
can exceed in all other areas of their life. So we're kind of the foundation and the support system for our kids.
I love it.
So that they can build up in their academics and everything else.
Yeah. So do you ever get like a referral from a teacher where you feel like maybe they could have handled it themselves? Do they ever send you things that are like minor? Or can you tell us about like when you say they're having a bad day? Can you kind of put some parameters on that?
Yeah.
Like,
Kids bawling in your classroom.
okay.
Uncontrollably.
Okay.
Be a caring, responsive adult. Hey, how are you? The best teachers are the ones who know their students. They have relationships with their students. They can tell when their kid is just having an off day and they go up to them immediately and go, hey dude, you look a little sleepy today. What's going on? And because they have that relationship, the kid's not offended. They don't bristle at the fact that you've called them out. They see it as caring and nurturing.
Yeah.
When teachers have that relationship with kids will typically turn to them and either pour their heart and soul out, to which they go, great, let's send you to counseling because I don't have time for that. And that's not a negative thing. It's your job as a teacher is to teach.
Right.
And so when we've had a breakup or, daddy's gone, mama's breaking up, somebody's on drugs, somebody's moving in, somebody's moving out. I mean, our kids deal with the most of adult world problems. That's when you can say, you kind of have that understanding with your kid. Like, okay, why don't you take 5 minutes, go to the bathroom, rinse your face off and come back? As a teacher who's caring and responsive, you're going to know when that kid's going to reset themselves in 5 minutes and come right back.
I used to do that a lot. Take 5.
That's one of the best things that we can offer. Like, okay, I can see you're just not your normal self today and you seem a little off, and that's okay. We all have bad days.
Yeah.
What do you need from me to help you get ready to learn today?
There you go.
That really simple phrase. And a lot of times kids will say, well, I need to go to, we have what's called a calm down space. We have a big conference room that's full of just fun alternative seating and a bike and soft music, and they know to ask for that. Sometimes they'll just say, can I just go to the bathroom and wipe my face off? Kids will tell you what they need more often than not. When you have a kid that's bawling their eyes out, having a panic attack, that is really common post-COVID. Kids are coming back with severe anxiety concerns and disorders, and genuinely kind of falling out in classrooms where we're calling the nurse in for panic attacks. Those are the things when you call the counselor and say, I've got somebody who seems to be in a bit of a crisis, they need a space. What would you like me to do? Then the counselor can turn around and say, can you hold them for 5 minutes? Send them on down. Hang on, I'm not available, but let me get so-and-so.
I see. So I'm sure you probably know a lot of the counselors in the district. Do y'all have some kind of PLC or something?
We
like
do.
That? Okay.
Yep, we meet monthly for our
Would
PLCs.
you say that overall that most counselors would prefer appointments be made, or are most of them like where you can call down and say, hey, can you see so-and-so right now?
In an emergency, always call down.
Okay.
So if a teacher deems it, and of course this is, you got to decide what's an emergency or not. But if a kid's saying, I'm having a hard time breathing, I'm just going to lose it, I'm having a terrible day, call.
Okay.
Let us see. Hey, can I see the counselor?
Right.
And they're perpy and bully, and they're like, okay. I would say,
I used to get that all the
all
time.
of
I'm
us-
going to go see the counselor.
Yep.
And I'm like,
All of us, I think, at this point have referral forms. We each do it differently, how the
Okay.
teacher makes a referral. I know at our specific site, it's a Google form that all students have access to. We have a counseling classroom in Google, and they find the form there. So they can
Okay.
self-refer. Teachers can refer them there. If it's non-emergent, meaning they say, hey, I'm just having friend issues and I want to talk to them, they'll go, great, go put it in the referral system, or I'll do that for you. A lot of times teachers will refer kids and say, I've just noticed a change in their demeanor. I've heard them talking with friends about ... Can you check in on them? So it could be home problems, it could be school problems, it could be talking about social emotional stuff. Hey, I'm just feeling depressed, I'm hurting, things like that. Those would all be referral form things.
Okay.
When you hear kids talking about self-harm, I'm going to cut myself, talking about any sort of suicide ideation or thoughts, our instructions are, and this is pretty much countywide as well, you need to make verbal contact with a counselor. So call our extensions, and if you can't get us, who is the person we've told you to call? So in our building, we say, if you can't get us, call the registrar, because she shares a space with us, and we always tell her where we are in the building.
Yeah.
If you can't get them, you call an administrator. You never email those things because they become public record, and so that's not fair for that child to have a public record that this was said. But also, what if I don't see it? And you send that child home on a bus because you're like, well, I emailed the counselor, she never came to see the kid.
Wow.
I don't sit at my desk all day long. And if I do, I'm here with kids, I'm not just answering emails. We miss stuff, but we don't miss phone calls. Most of us have walkies, they can find us. So those would be the most important. When does it become immediate? When you see writing in a journal about, I want to kill myself, I want to die, I just wish I wasn't here anymore. They write on desks, they'll write on anything, they'll write on each other.
Yeah.
When they've specifically said to you anything about suicidality or self-harm, or other students say, hey, I heard somebody talking about this, that needs to be okay, great, I'm going to need y'all to work on number 5. I've got to make a quick phone call. I'll be right back. Make the phone call real quick. You don't have to get into it. We'll call you if we need more information. And then you're, as teacher, are released from that, because we then have all the protocols we follow. So what I always tell teachers is, you don't have to ever be burdened with, what do I do with this? The answer is always refer to counseling, and then I'm the one who's burdened with what comes next.
We're staying in our lane.
Yeah.
And
there's freedom in that.
There is. Yeah, and protection.
And another thing I would say that's important is, don't contact the parent first with those ideas before you talk to counseling.
Okay.
Because I've had teachers in the past say, well, I've already emailed the parent that they wanted to kill themselves.
Yeah.
But I'm also referring them to you. Well, now I have a panicked parent coming to me before I've spoken to the child, or the wrong person gets that email, or they see it 3 days later. Like, put yourself in that shoes. Is this something you'd want to receive a dojo message about or an email about? I'm not saying that teachers cannot contact family. Not at all. You have those relationships, but let the counselor do kind of that diagnostic work, those screenings of what needs to be done, what the student meant, and then use our clinical experience to call the family and have those conversations with them.
Yeah. This has been like super informative. I've learned a lot myself, so I know that my beginning teachers will be most grateful. So thank you so much for your time, Ms. Fortner. We appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
I'm here with Natalie McCurley. And Natalie, tell us what your title is right now.
Hi, again, my name is Natalie McCurley, and I'm one of the Student Support Services Coordinators for Harnett County, and I help support social emotional learning, or SEL, and also the behavior support team, and also work in close conjunction with the mental health support team.
Okay. Natalie, do you work mostly with elementary?
Our program actually is K-12, but our primary function is elementary and middle, and then we're working to add some more things in high school and more like restorative practices and those types of things.
Okay. All right. So do you work with individual children, or?
The way it works is we normally have a referral process, and school counselors and school social workers and administration can refer students to our program, and then we help do things like observations and try to identify functions of behavior, patterns, those kind of things. Perhaps even if there's mental health concerns with those as we're observing. Anything else like that, community supports that might be available for the family if there's some other underlying needs that we notice in these informational type situations, and then we kind of work on how to deliver that at the school base for the most part as of recently. And then we do have some options with Ms. Sambitz, one of my colleagues, that comes and helps do some of the social emotional learning pieces with that. So it's kind of it just depends on each situation, and we work with the schools to help figure out what might be best for that student to help them improve.
Okay, so are you able to work with kids that don't have IEPs?
Correct.
Or,
we are regular education.
Okay.
And if students have IEPs, then they work through their exceptional children's programs.
Okay,
to work
so
with
all
those
of your
kids.
work is with regular
Correct.
ed. Okay,
Correct.
so what might be like an example of some behaviors that might end up getting referred for y'all to assist with?
Well, we work on, we've worked on all tiers of behavior. MTSS works with tier 1, 2, and 3. We've worked with a lot of schools on tier 1, just like as core for like the whole school systems. If they've got like a lot of things going on. We worked in tier 2 as, those kids are kind of floating to the top of, it's not quite working for them in the classroom, and how we can help manage classrooms or particular grade levels, those kind of things. And then we certainly work with those in tier 3 that are in need of functional behavior assessments or behavior intervention plans. Those are called FBAs or BIPs. We can help develop those, and schools are able to do that as well, but sometimes just having additional eyes on things and everybody working together becomes necessary.
So the BIP is not like an IEP, it's different?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, is it kind of like a 504 or?
It is just a function-based behavior plan that we try to identify triggers, settings, just underlying causes and ways we can manipulate the environment and the situation to help alleviate some of those. So the student has a different way to fulfill that need that they're looking for with their behavior.
Do those always come out of MTSS, or can a teacher say, I have a child, I think they need a behavior plan, I'm going to reach out to someone? Would they send it through MTSS, or could they email like the counselor or someone?
Usually the best route is probably the school counselor.
Okay.
And then usually they and the MTSS coordinators work hand in hand, and they go through a process to see who needs that. Because, the triangle's the same. 80% is core, 15% is a tier 2, and around 5% is that tier 3. So I want to make sure that you're not overdoing yourself, because FBAs and BIPs are a very intensive thing, and it's something we want to save for those most needed students. So
That's good. That's a good point, because I think a lot of times people that are starting out, especially if they didn't go to school for education, they're going to perceive that they have a lot more that might need it than really do.
Yes, and you don't want to
I did.
wear yourself out. Yes, but doing those kind of things that a tier 2 or a tier 1 thing could help solve some of those problems.
All right. Well, Natalie, this has been like super informative. I sure do thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. It's nice to have you, and let us know if we can help.
Yep. And now I'm here at Western Harnett High School with my friend Cindy Delgado. And Miss Delgado, can you tell us what your title is right now?
I am a success coach with Harnett County Schools.
Okay. Did you all used to be called dropout preventionists?
When I took this position, we were under the dropout prevention program, and a couple of years ago we were switched over to success coaches.
Okay.
Because we do work with at-risk kids and trying to help them to be more successful in school.
Okay. That's exactly what I was getting ready to ask you next, is what type of kids do you serve?
Here at the high school is any kid that is at risk. It could be a freshman who has repeating their 9th grade year, they're behind on their credits. Sometimes we have students that come in that are way behind on their credits, and I'm looking at alternatives to where they can graduate either on time or within the next cohort to where they can earn that diploma.
Okay. So this video is obviously for like my beginning teachers. So when would they know to refer a child to you, and how would they go about doing that?
The best way to get in touch with me is just through my email. Here at the high school, or if I'm at the middle school, I have a specific location. People, I'm very informal about it. They can come by and drop by my office and talk to me about a student. If I'm not the correct point of contact at that point in time, I will direct them in the right direction, whether it's the counselor or if it's just helping set up a meeting. I can help facilitate all of those things. But emailing me at cdelgado@harnett.k12.nc.us is probably the best way. They can email me, give me the information about the student, and then I will follow back up with them, and then we'll kind of put a plan in place as to what needs to happen next.
And you serve the Western High and Middle?
I currently serve Western Middle and Western Harnett High School. Some of the other success coaches, Angie Wood at Triton just serves Triton, and Leslie Hamby at Harnett Central just serves Harnett Central High School. Right now there's not a position at Overhills High School, but the counselors will contact me if they have questions about a student, and I can go over there and meet with them at this time.
Okay. So what are some signs that a kid is at risk?
Well, attendance. When the child's not coming to school on a regular basis, if there's a change in the behavior of the child, a lot of the teachers will see that first thing. Maybe they start acting out or not turning in their work. Obviously, if a student becomes pregnant, we do have students that are homeless or in transition, and we try to help accommodate them to where they can get to the school on a regular basis. So those are just some general red flags, but anytime obviously they're behind on their grades and they're failing, that's usually when that gets everybody's attention.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you mostly work with high school kids and then 8th graders?
Well, even 6th graders, sometimes that's a huge transition period for kids coming from elementary up to the middle school. So lots of times it's more 6th graders and 8th graders that are transitioning over into the high school versus the 7th graders for some reason. Anytime there's a big jump in location, that's usually when we see the behaviors. Like 9th graders, we try to offer them a little extra support coming in from the middle school to the high school because it is a whole different ballgame.
It's a lot.
Over here. It is a lot
very
bigger
different
school. And they're not used to the credits, understanding how the credits work, and they just automatically think if this is their 2nd year, they're a sophomore, 3rd year, they're junior, and they don't understand that it's based off the number of credits they earn each year.
Well, I sure do appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
And
very
I
much.
thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And now I'm here at Harnett Central High School with Erica Hoskins. Ms. Hoskins, thank you for your time. Can you tell us what you do?
Sure. I'm a school social worker for Harnett County Schools, and we do a lot of whole child approach when we're working with students and we're working with families and teachers, addressing the needs of the whole student. So we look at a lot of ecological factors, including their home environment, their school environment. Are their psychological or psychosocial needs being met, such as food, clothing, shelter, things like that. We deal a lot with our homeless population and our McKinney-Vento students, making sure that those students have equal access to the same opportunities as their peers, making sure that they have transportation, food, clothing, extracurricular opportunities that their peers would have, such as field trips or other events that may be costly, just making sure that they have equal opportunities here.
So how do you learn about the students that you work with, and what role might the beginning teachers play in that?
Okay, great question. So I meet with a variety of students regularly. Sometimes they may come to me by means of a teacher. And so a lot of times I meet students from teacher concerns. And so I think that new teachers building that trust in the relationship with the students can kind of help determine if there are factors that might be impacting their ability to be successful at school. And so I meet a lot of students from teacher referrals, from concerns from teachers that there may be something, whether it be attendance or something outside of the home, that might be impacting their ability to learn and to be successful at school. So I do, have students that I see a lot throughout the day. Sometimes it comes up randomly. Sometimes I have planned meetings, but it's really through the teachers that we get these students, that I learn about problems that they might have, and how we kind of navigate those and work to alleviate any issues they might have.
Okay, so what might be some signs that a student is either on the edge of homelessness or homeless, or that things are going on at home that you might need to look into? What would be some signs?
Great question. So some signs that could be indicative that they may not have a stable home environment, or there might be a problem, is absenteeism.
Okay.
So absenteeism is almost always a symptom and not a problem. It's a symptom of something greater that's happening, usually outside of school. So seeing them absent a lot, sleeping in class a lot. For homelessness, if they say things like, well, we were staying here, but now we're having to stay with this person, or that they're kind of crashing on someone's couch, sleeping a lot in class, wearing the same clothes repeatedly, not really being focused, because homelessness can, cause a lot of symptoms that seem like they're not engaged, but they may just be tired from not having a place to lay their head at night.
I see. Do you just serve the students here?
So I serve Harnett Central High School and Bowie's Creek Elementary.
Okay.
And each school has an assigned social worker throughout the county. And so all of us have 2 schools.
Okay. So if one of my beginning teachers wanted to know who their social worker was, could they go to through guidance or?
Yes, absolutely. We work very collaboratively with all of the guidance counselors.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. We sure do appreciate everything you do for our kids.
Yep, great.
All right.